If you're an Android user looking for your muse for podcasts, check out the Podcast Republic app on the Google Play Store. There are thousands of good reviews telling you how great it is, so I won't go on for long here. But just know that if you're looking for something great, a new way to listen to your podcasts, you should check out the Podcast Republic app on the Google Play Store. Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Tripp Leno, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers. And with me, as always, is my tag team partner, a man who's been with me on this journey for now 6 seasons.
That's crazy.
The Macho Mandrew.
Andrew Leno. And that is, it's always, I said that to someone the other day because I was talking about my podcast. And in this age of everyone and their grandma has a podcast together. I was like, oh, no, it's like our 6th or 7th year. Because someone was like, oh, what kind of movies? And I was like, oh, it's been a long time. It's been 6 years, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, someone asked me that recently, and they were asking me for recommendation. I was like, honestly, there's 140 episodes almost. So,
well, more than that, wouldn't it? No, you're right. It's 25 a year.
25 a year. So right around that, but I was just like, actually, wait, are we at once? I don't remember. Because the Patreon has added and whatnot.
So we're over 150.
I forgot about.
Probably around 170.
Yeah, because we made a big deal about 150. It's really good that neither of us knows this offhand. We are Alligator. This is episode 164 of the numbered episodes, which includes some that are on Patreon these days. But yes, we have been doing this for quite some time. Thanks to all of you for listening to it. We'll do some wrap-up stuff on a later episode probably. But today we're here to talk about a movie that I was kind of dreading, and turns out I have a little bit of a soft spot for, Xanadu.
I had never actually seen it the whole way through. I'd only heard tale of Xanadu, and also as a stage show. So I was like, oh, cool, I'll finally get to check it out. And boy, did it deliver.
Well, we watched Xanadu, so you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your mountains of cocaine and roller skates. Something's gotta be about your mountains of cocaine and roller skates.
When the mega powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott.
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega powers, yeah.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
All right, so I have some beefs that I want to get off my chest to start this. Okay,
wow, that's early for you.
Yeah. So, all right, you've made this joke on the podcast before, and I frankly kind of like it, so it's fine, even though it's at my expense. But I often say that I'm not a huge fan of musicals, and you always retort that, yeah, except that you love friggin' Singing in the Rain, which is
you're like, I don't like musicals, but I do love the musical about the invention of movie musicals that is a golden age spectacle.
Yes. So I do genuinely like that movie, although I have only seen it one time, and it was in a film class in college.
Are you kidding me? In my brain, you've watched it five, 6 times.
No. I mean, maybe I've seen it 2 times, but it's not like a movie I've seen a bunch. I just remember it very fondly. It was like, oh, maybe I do like this.
A lot of the jokes hold up. The physical comedy in Make 'Em Laugh, where Donald O'Connor goes through a wall doing wall flips. Every time I laugh.
Yeah, the physical comedy is excellent. I mean, you got Gene Kelly in there, who's just phenomenal, who's also in this movie, which is why I bring this up. But the thing about Singing in the Rain, which this movie is very much of that era, and I heard someone use a word to describe that era of musicals, and I promptly forgot it, but
Pastiche?
You probably know. It's not important, but we're hearkening back in Xanadu to the musicals of the 50s. This is like a big production type number. Lots of people dancing, very similar to those early musicals.
Busby Berkeley, that golden age.
That's what I wanted. Yes, Busby Berkeley is what I wanted. But here is the problem. In Singing in the Rain, you got Gene Kelly, you got Debbie Reynolds, you got Donald O'Connor, right?
3 heavy hitters.
Maybe not the best actors in the world, but oodles of charm. Oodles and oodles and oodles of charm, okay? So we're doing the updated version of that. Well, hey, Gene Kelly's still around. Let's see if we can get him. Boom, you got Gene Kelly. Great, perfect, wonderful. Now we got to fill the lady spot. Okay, Olivia Newton-John. Doesn't really act well, but can sing okay, and is
I think she's a very talented
charming
singer. How dare you?
She doesn't make music that I like, but I'm not saying she's bad. She's fine. She's totally fine.
And very charming.
Not a good actor, but extremely charming. And then who goes in the third spot? This
cardboard
wet
cutout.
ham sandwich. He's a wet ham sandwich. He is the sandwich that you get on like a tour boxed lunch where like the condiments come in a little packet and you open it and you're like, why is the bread soggy? Oh, because the ham was wet for some reason. So now I have a wet ham sandwich. Cool. I guess this counts as food.
Yeah, he is a cardboard cutout, and it's just he's got great hair and he's handsome, but I don't understand why
he broke out. The actor's name is Michael Beck. He broke out in The Warriors, which is a movie I do like, although again, like Singing in the Rain, I haven't seen it in a very long time. I do remember liking it. But in that movie, he plays like a tough guy. He's a little bit frightening. He's got an edge to him. This dude is supposed to be a charming everyman. And I have 2 words for you
Steve
that
Guttenberg.
I think absolutely Steve Guttenberg.
Do you know why he couldn't do this?
Yes, because he was in that other dumb movie we did.
He was in You Can't Stop the Music, which Olivia Newton-John
Yes!
turned down to do this.
Such a night. Like, this movie is so much better with the Goots. It's not even a question.
Well, also, so here's the thing. This movie was supposed to be Olivia Newton-John's star vehicle. Like, it was saying, hi, I'm Olivia Newton-John. This is my movie and only my movie. Which is why I think they didn't try hard to get someone better in the male lead.
If that's true, why is she only in it for like 25 minutes?
No, I like, truthfully, it was her only top, like, solo billing for a movie, and it tanked so hard it never happened again.
But she's barely in it.
I'm not saying it was executed well.
But you agree, right? Like, she is barely in this movie.
I think she's in it a lot. I just don't think she's given a lot to do, which is the issue.
Yeah. So here's my other thing. Now, and so the Guttenberg thing is like just better casting. Already, this movie goes up 2 grades. And like the fact that he was in another movie musical shooting at the same time,
another roller disco movie musical.
Right. That they were both happening simultaneously, and they like. We have, instead of 1 good movie, 2 bad ones because the casting couldn't get lined up right.
I don't know. The problem is with that theory that implies that one movie has to go away and become and the other one has to become the better one. And I don't know which one I would rather that be.
Well, I'm saying the other movie I don't think is salvageable. I think this is really entertaining, except for the fact that there's a wet ham sandwich in the male lead. And if you just swapped in a better actor, that like I do have another fix for this movie that I'll get to perhaps later. But the easiest fix in the world is like just swap out Michael Beck for somebody who has any charisma. For in this, like, he needs to be a charming boy next door, handsome man.
John Travolta was tapped for it, but he was doing Urban Cowboy.
Travolta would have been great too. I think part of that also is them probably being like, hey, we don't want to just be like doing the Grease people in a new musical. That probably also was a factor.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I agree that he is, frankly, they could have swapped him with the other male painter guy who seems to be more charismatic.
Or, and I know you're gonna blow your top here, but
if you say Bobcat Goldthwait,
yes.
I'm gonna punch you in the throat.
No, you swap him with Gene Kelly and you make the movie about Gene Kelly and the Muse had a relationship when he was a young man. He's always had this one other idea. She's like been a Muse for such a long time that she's like, you know what? I actually liked that guy. I want him to be the only person who's ever gotten 2 cracks at the Muse apple, and I want to go help him. And it's not a sexual relationship, but it's like because it clearly was.
Yeah.
It's not that at all. It's just like she comes back to help him. He gets to, put on the tap shoes one last time and gets like his one final cowboy type run and does like everything else in the movie stays the same. He makes a club, he does that stuff, but you make it so that he's getting reinvigorated by the reappearance of this woman in his life when he needed it. This Muse, not woman. I think that movie is way more interesting than this one.
Who's she gonna want to fuck? You gotta fuck somebody in this movie. Who's it gonna be? Chomp, chomp, chomp on the cigar.
I mean, I don't know. Like, anyone could be there. It could be that, like, just any person. Or, for once, we just don't have a romance at the center.
Yeah, no, I'm always down for that. However, 1980 was not down for that.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll get into more of this as we go along, but I just cannot, like, Michael Beck is inexplicable casting in this movie, and he's why this movie sucks.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Because the soundtrack slaps harder than Joan Collins.
Yeah, this, I have a lot of notes about that, so let's just start this. Opening credits, we got Gene Kelly playing the clarinet.
Kenny Ortega.
That's right, choreo by Kenny Ortega, who would later become the man behind High School Musical.
And, basically any major musical moment in pop culture film is because of Kenny Ortega. So he did the big scene in Ferris Bueller was him. He did
That's right.
16 Candles. Hocus Pocus was directed by him.
Two out of those three are definite future episodes, just haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, yeah. He did Newsies, which a lot of people love. I've never actually seen the movie. I was cast in the musical.
You've seen the movie. I watched it with you. You were very young.
Then I don't remember it. And the High School Musical. I think at least, I want to say he directed 2 of them, but maybe more. I'm not sure. He's very much a choreographer first, and you can tell that in the movies that he makes because there is a lyricism and a musicality to the way the performers move.
And most of the choreo in this movie, I think, is excellent.
Yes.
From what you can see, but I think it is shot so aggressively poorly that it is infuriating. And again, like, I'm not a person who really cares about this stuff. This is not the type of movie that I would normally be interested in, but I was in on this movie. I was like, this is very similar to Singing in the Rain, and like it's stylistically very similar to that, which is very it's like all charm based. And then there's all these amazing looking dance numbers that we're shooting from a low angle and far away. And I'm like, put the camera on a goddamn crane and shoot up. What are we doing here?
Like Mamma Mia. It's so bad. I'm like, I want to watch this dance. And you're just like constantly cut, close up feet, close up face. I'm like, no, let me pull back. Let me watch.
But even in the times in this movie when they do pull back to let you watch, there were like the camera's too low and there's like layered things happening that I'm like, a lot of work and effort went into make this look cool, and you have made no attempt to show it to me. None.
Exactly.
This movie like made me mad for what it should have been more than almost any of the famous box office bombs that I've watched, because this movie is like 4 degrees away from being excellent.
It truly is.
It's very close. It's like everybody shits on it and whatever. And I really think that a lot of that was people being mean to Olivia Newton-John because it was fun and everyone was embarrassed that they like Grease, which is like, it was like the backlash turn of like, the Hootie and the Blowfish. Everyone's like, this song's great. This song's great. This song's great. Okay, that's too many great songs. Fuck you forever. Like, that's very much what we do as a culture. So I really think a lot of that comes from people loved Grease so hard. They were like, oh, I'm embarrassed that we liked this stupid thing so much. Get it out of here. Throw her in the trash.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. Because it's close. It's so close. It just needs a little more fine tuning, and it could have been pretty good.
It needs, and I want you to imagine this as the sound of like a foghorn, but Goot. Like, that's what someone needed to play the Goot signal and get his ass in there. We needed that curly mop top and that big smile and him just being all shucks in his way through this thing.
Do you think this could have worked with a John Cusack?
I think it's probably better. I don't like the
it's
thing
not the
about
Goots,
Cusack,
but it's better than him.
Right. And I like, I think John Cusack's ceiling is much, much higher than Steve Guttenberg's.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, as actors. Although, I would say Steve Guttenberg's basement is higher in the building than Cusack's is, because Cusack's basement is very deep. The Goot has like maybe a five floor range on this hypothetical elevator, and the Cusack one is like 22, where it's like, whoa, we can get some wild swings here. Yeah. It's like the Tower of Terror.
Starring
Cusack
Steve Guttenberg?
Is not... Yes, exactly. That's why I was for you and you only, that one little reference. Cusack is not the right type of charming for this movie, in my personal opinion, but it would be better. Absolutely, it's an improvement.
I think that's most of this movie is just like, we could have gotten someone better.
Like, almost anyone would be better than Michael Beck is in this
I
movie.
agree.
He and I think that's not necessarily like a shot at Michael Beck. I think a lot of it is he probably isn't getting great direction on what he should be doing. He's not done this type of movie before, and so he doesn't quite know what to do, and he needs some assistance.
And he's acting against Olivia Newton-John, who was in the movie musical of the century, basically.
Well, yeah, and the other
and Gene Kelly, who was in
Gene
the other
Kelly. Right. It's like a really difficult job this guy got asked to do, and it was out of his element, which happens. Like, I'm not saying Michael Beck deserves to be put in the stockade. I just think he was a poor choice for this movie.
Yeah, they really needed someone used to this caliber.
Or just someone who is oodles of charm. Like, you need charm by the bucketful when you're going to compete with these two people.
You know who could have been fun? Baby unibrow Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell would be better in this movie than Michael Beck is. Absolutely. Again, a weird choice.
But I'm like, what better. Weird? Because this movie is weird. Like, I feel like you have to go a little weird for it. Like, John Travolta is not the right. Steve Guttenberg, like, he's kind of weird. Like, I get it. Like, I want someone weird in this movie to bring weird, but better.
Like Steve Buscemi.
Sure.
Yes, that's it. Right there. A young Steve Buscemi. When he only had a bag under his eyes instead of 22. He has always been ugly hot, which is the term that I heard Pete Davidson use in a movie. He was like, I'm ugly hot, like
neck down, great.
Steve Buscemi. No, it's like Steve Buscemi's face is not classically attractive by any stretch of the imagination, but there's something about him that is a compelling face to look at. Like, I could see someone wanting to look at his face. So that's all I meant. Anyway, you talked about the music. I'll just get some of this out of the way here, and then we'll start talking about the plot of this. Although I think this is not tangential in the way that we usually are. We're talking about, like, I wish this movie was better, and here's how it could have been.
Yes.
So most of the music in the movie is by Jeff Lynne, who was I believe the front man, but one of the main players in Electric Light Orchestra, which is electronic-y rock band from that era, who, while hugely influential, basically no one will admit to having listened to. It's like one of those weird things where you hear their music and echoes of their music all over the pop landscape right now, and for the last 10, 15 years for sure. But when you ask people who their influences are, they just never make the list. No one ever says Jeff Lynne or ELO, but he absolutely made this type of music is all over the soundtrack to like Guardians of the Galaxy. That's sort of
oh my God,
it's not quite in the AM gold yacht rock genre, which is having a bit of a moment now. It's more electronic than that, but it's in that sort of world. Mr. Blue Sky was the huge ELO song that you've definitely heard before. But he was also a member of the Traveling Wilburys, which is a cool supergroup with George Harrison, Roy Orbison, Tom Petty, and Bob Dylan. And so he is kind of like the odd duck of those five names, but it was everyone who was in the band talks about how important he was to this sort of group. So I think Jeff Lynne is a huge reason why this movie is fun to watch, because the music is awesome. It's so very good. It's extremely good. Like, all of it is good and exciting. The
only thing I don't like is, like, when I don't like the song, it's not that I don't like the song itself, it's that I don't need it in the movie. It's shot in a boring way.
Yeah, it's shot in a boring way is the absolute. This should be the tagline on the poster for this movie. Xanadu, shot in the most boring way.
It wasn't always, though. I only thought a couple songs were like boring as hell.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. So we start with the aforementioned ham sandwich, cardboard cutout Michael Beck. He's throwing out some sketches out the window.
Some poor PA had to make those sketches.
Oh, for sure. Like, a lot of them.
Yeah, that like he's ripping up a lot of art, and I was like, I feel so bad that some PA had to like paint that.
Yes. And he throws them out the window and they get picked up by the breeze and they hit this mural and the mural springs to life. Now, did you read the thing about this? Because
that he allegedly painted the mural?
Yes, which makes the whole movie better.
And I don't know why they cut the stage musical apparently makes that explicit. But what this movie should have been was he's finishing painting the mural and then he gets paid for it and he's like, oh God, art for money. and like
Yeah.
and like, you know, something that like connects the art for money theme instead of this, because like there's one line in the movie that says I painted a mural, and you're supposed to infer that that was this mural.
Right. Yeah. He tosses that out as he's like bitching about how his life sucks. So this mural springs to life. Olivia Newton-John teleports, and she's like,
It's
roller
the Power
skating, and
Rangers.
she keeps doing this like pachoo, pachoo. She turns into like yellow light.
So here's a confusing thing for me. He rips up his scrap of paper, is like, I'll never sell my art, and throws it. This lands on a mural he painted of the 9 muses. Yes. All 9 of them come to life individually. The song is called I'm Alive, one of my favorites in the show. They all come out and like Power Rangers light beam away. Why? Because if his like disgruntlement is what awoke them so that Olivia Newton-John could get him on track to do a thing, where did the other ones go? And why were they awoken by him?
I took that as the muses like periodically just like come into our world through a portal that's available to them, and then they disseminate to help.
So you don't think the paper was connected?
I think the fact that like it was a recent drawing of them is what made the portal, and then the drawings opened the portal. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's like they're the drawing or the mural is the door, and the things are the key. The sketches are the key.
Okay.
So he drew the door, and it was a locked door, and then him doing that like made the key happen. Was my reading of it. But again, like the movie certainly doesn't tell you that.
No. And it feels very Star Wars Holiday Special. This scene,
extreme Star Wars Holiday Special.
A lot of this movie, but this scene in particular, and these costumes, they're just not great.
No,
they're supposed to be
very cheap looking.
I don't understand why they're the Greek muses, and you don't understand that explicitly until for another 45 minutes of the movie.
Yeah,
like why are they dressed like Spirit Halloween slutty Italian peasant costume?
It makes absolutely no sense. Again, like if the scene is what you described of him, like the guy's like, yeah, the muses look great, thanks, kid. Like, and goes on, like that's fine. Like,
paint more cleavage.
It would be, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you didn't make them busty enough. I want to see some gams. What are we doing here?
Like then I would get it, but it's just
right. Anyway, she teleports in this yellow like electric zap thing on rollerblades, or roller skates rather, bumps into Ham Sandwich Michael Beck, kisses him, and then like zooms away, and he's like, oh my god, the woman of my dreams.
Seemingly showing off magic in front of him.
Yes, absolutely.
Which I don't get, because he clearly watches her go, and then she turns into a beam of light, and I was like, well, so he knows she's magic?
Yeah. He didn't seem to react in a way, like maybe my headcanon was the kiss like puts him in sort of a trance.
Okay.
So he doesn't remember the magical portion, just the woman.
Oh, maybe. That's a cool theory.
He gets to work at this art enclave, and this is like one of my beefs with this type of movie often. So his job is painting large versions of album covers to be hung as advertisements. Although the movie doesn't explain what the hell they're doing for like an hour.
No,
which is
it's a cool
bonkers.
Job though. Like
it's a super cool.
It doesn't
job.
exist anymore. Period. Because you just blow it up
right.
at Kinko's or whatever. So like,
right.
This is so cool. Like in my head, I'm surprised they don't give them like the regular copy of the album cover with a grid on it, and then a giant canvas with a grid on it, so you can like, okay, so if this square is supposed to be like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's how I would, if I was forced to do this job, which I wouldn't be because I'm not this type of person. I couldn't do this job. I'm a terrible artist, but that is how I would want to structure this. Of like, okay, grid, B7 is this lady's left eye, and B9 is whatever. But he acts like this job is the bane of his existence. And I'm always baffled in movies where a person has a love for making art, whether it's music or painting or drawing or whatever. Look, man or woman, if you can get a job where your 9-to-5 existence is getting to do the thing, and it's like largely fulfilling, but you don't get the creative side, but then you can go home and paint whatever the hell you want. I'm baffled as to you complaining about this. Like, I truly don't get it.
Yeah, it's always like it makes so much more sense when the movies are, I'm a corporate, I'm a tax accountant, but my dream is to be a Christmas window decorator. Like,
exactly,
sure,
yes.
that's disparate.
Yes.
But like, you're a painter and you're getting paid to paint.
Right, you've done it. You did it. Your dream was to be a professional painter. Cool. That's what you do. Like, yes, you're making copies. I get that is not artistically, creatively fulfilling, but someone is paying you for your talent. You're being compensated for the talent that you have worked and honed. It drives me bananas. But then the other thing this made me think of is, like, I've been following Drew Struzan on Twitter lately, and he posts all these great pictures of his poster art and the concepts and the sketches and stuff. And this and following him is like, man, remember when people like gave a shit about making the posters and album covers? Because now it's just, if you're lucky, it's a photo shoot, which I'm not trying to take artistic value away from making great photos. That's an extremely difficult job. But like most of the time, it's like the new sci-fi epic, and it's just like photoshopped 3 heads on a star field and their names on top, and let's get out of here.
Are you talking about a movie poster?
Movie poster or album covers too are like, they're often like just bleh these days. Mm-hmm. Because nobody buys albums. Everybody streams everything. And so it's just like, I don't know, just put a picture of Taylor Swift on it and put Taylor Swift's name on it. There, that's a new album cover.
Yeah. I always remember Lady Gaga's first album cover because it was a big deal, because it wasn't like, album covers until then had been like, it was Britney Spears with her like in like a midriff shirt, or like Christina Aguilera,
right.
Like very, very sexualized. And her first album cover was literally like an extreme close up on her face with a blunt bang and a pink lip and sunglasses on. And she was like, nope, this is it. It's this one.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of covers, Olivia Newton-John happens to be on one of these album covers.
Magically.
Yeah, and so this starts to like, oh, I gotta find this woman. Cut to Gene Kelly playing on the beach.
He looks like you put Gene Kelly in old age makeup. Like,
yes,
he looks like
does.
He looks like he filmed this the day after Singing in the Rain, and they were like, "You're gonna play an old version of yourself."
Yes, exactly. And I love this. So what follows? So like, he starts talking to Gene Kelly. He sees Olivia Newton-John. He goes like, "Oh my god, I gotta catch her!" She starts skating away. He runs up to a random woman on the beach who's locking up her bicycle and goes, "Hey, I have to borrow this." Oh, a moped, right?
It's more expensive.
I have to borrow this. And the woman says, sure, okay. And then he takes it, no collateral, nothing.
As long as you bring it back in person, and winks. And I was like, what's happening?
Like, you want to bone this guy so hard, you're letting him steal your moped. Cool, I guess.
What follows is the shortest, lamest, and lowest stakes chase I've ever seen in a movie.
Yes, but it does end with him going ass over tea kettle into the river at the end of a pier. And I thought, I had looked down, I was making a note, I thought he drove the moped into
like
the
just
water.
hit a ramp?
And he hit, and that I just thought everything went into the water. And I was like, holy shit, he destroyed that lady's moped. And then I had to back it up to confirm, because I was like, I can't believe that. That's such a mean twist.
And then Olivia Newton-John giggles that he fell over the overboard, and light beams out of there. And I just wrote, oh, so she's a monster.
Yes, exactly.
There's 2 different versions of this movie that could have existed. One where it's a horror movie, and she's a monster trying to make people be like, oh, I'm going to drive you insane. Like, everyone's going to think you're insane. And then another version that I will get to later when we get to more plot-heavy stuff. So
we are having coffee with Gene Kelly, doing some plot exposition. Gene Kelly's just like, being nice to this young man who fell into the ocean in all of his clothing.
He's on roller skates.
Yeah. And then we're skitching on a van, which seems incredibly dangerous, as it goes along. Like, Michael J. Fox does it in Back to the Future for maybe a block, and it's always like, ugh, this guy seems to skitch for like a 6 or 7 mile run off this van. Yeah, just get in the van.
What do you think? Roller skates or a skateboard is more dangerous to do that?
I feel like it's pretty close to even, Because, like, in the world where the skateboard gets knocked out from under you, you're just dragging your limbs on the pavement, which I feel is worse.
God.
But all I was like, the why this one drives me crazy is because the guy who's driving this van is a friend of his, and it's like, just get in the van. Like, leave your skates on, just get in the van. What are we doing here?
Right. Also, I said it last time as a joke, but I truly mean it that if anyone has a pair of roller skates that they don't want anymore, let us know. Because I will pay for a flat rate shipping box to get a pair of skates.
There is a place I had been really looking forward to visiting this spring and summer. One of the national park sites, Anacostia, in the DC area, has a skating rink. It's like one of the oddities of the national park system, and I was so excited to go. The skate rentals are free, and of course that's not happening now.
Damn it.
It is outdoors. The whole thing doesn't seem fun to me.
That's fair.
So he gets off at the entrance to Disney's Hollywood Studios.
I was going to say this is just
investigating.
Art Deco Disney's Hollywood Studios.
No. This is the literal inspiration for the front of that. Did you not look this up?
I didn't see. Well, I've looked up stuff, but I didn't see that. It makes so much sense.
So this is literally the theater that they copied the design from to open the park. 2 days after or 2 days before the park opened, it's like that close of a time frame. This building burnt down.
Wow.
And it's gone forever. So they like did the copy in Florida, and then the real one disappeared forever.
And then I know the replacement building only has one of those. Like this one has four of the like archy, curvy thingies, but the new one only has one.
They always remind me, Art Deco is obviously the correct term for it, but they always remind me of the fins of a like 60s, 50s era like car, the big surf fins in the back. But it's just this very cool Art Deco theater, and I have it in my notes somewhere, but I'm not going to sit here for a minute and read through. I'll get to it when we come to it, but it's this very famous California theater that he stops in front of, and the picture of Olivia Newton-John was in front of this building, and so that leads him to think he can find a clue to her here somewhat.
So he sneaks into the roller disco.
And finds Olivia Newton-John having a sad solo skate.
Also disappearing and reappearing. She's fading out of view, like literally as she skates, fades into nothingness and then reappears elsewhere. And he is too casual.
He's leaning on a balcony and they're having this shouted conversation. And every time you can see Olivia Newton-John's face, her mouth isn't moving at all. It's not like,
so much ADR.
This isn't synced. But it's like ADR over her with a smile plastered on her face. So it looks really creepy to me.
Yeah. After this, we get the first of the amazing transitions in this movie.
Yeah, that's what I kept talking to you about last episode with the alligator stuff.
There's so many accordion transitions.
Yeah, and they're almost all accompanied by like or type sound effects. Yes, it's
like
so weird.
Like you're flipping through the pages of a book.
We get back to the painting studio, and the boss comes out, and he's mad because his paintings are too good. You're doing too good of a job.
It seemed more like you were spending way too much time on this. Like, you don't need that much detail. These are just going to hang outside record stores or...
Right.
Theaters, maybe? No.
I think it's record stores. I don't think they do any movie posters. I think it's all album covers.
Well, I meant, like, if the band goes on tour, they might...
That's a good point. You could hang something like this up.
But he's like, you're spending
honestly,
too much time
it could be a
effort.
backdrop.
Oh, yeah.
Right. More silly transition.
And we go to the giant mansion Gene Kelly lives in. I was shocked this wasn't actually just Gene Kelly's house. And he was like, look, I'll do your movie if you shoot it in my house.
This is one of the most buck wild houses I've ever seen on a movie screen.
It's the Bill Murray house. It's like the Bill Murray house from Zombieland.
Yeah. It's total, which is the White House, isn't it?
No,
it's in LA when they meet Bill. The second movie, they're in the White House. Sorry, spoilers.
Yes.
Yeah. So he and Sonny, which is the name of Michael Ham Sandwich's character, they bond over music.
Who is it again? Do you remember? Did you write it down?
Who is what?
The artist that they bond over.
Oh, it's Herb Alpert, I'm pretty sure, and Tijuana Brass.
That name doesn't sound right, but it was a specific name. I don't remember it offhand. I was curious if you wrote it down.
Yeah, it's one of the big band leaders of the band leader that he mentions by name is a real person. But the wild part about this is that it's like, I was a world famous clarinet player touring in a band, doing it regular gig, like the dream of that type of player. If you're not into orchestra music, this is how it becomes a thing you can do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave it all up to go into construction, the family business. What you were successful. That's a gold record. I'm looking at a gold record. What are you talking about? Why did you give it up?
So silly. So this movie, what's confusing about this movie is that it doesn't commit either way to people are aware Olivia Newton-John is magical / a ghost, or she's hiding it from everyone. Like it needed to commit to one of those two things.
Yeah, because it seems like Gene Kelly knows who she is unequivocally, like instantaneously. Like even when he's talking about her, he's like, the muse is back. Mm-hmm. It's like very, very much on Front Street for him. Ham Sandwich has no idea that she's a muse until basically 3/4 of the way through the movie. She's like, I'm a muse, you thick moron.
She like taps him on the shoulder and points to the sky, and she's paying someone to skywrite. Like, I'm a muse, dumbass.
Right. I also really like the abandoned palace of a house leads to Gene Kelly being like, I really just always wanted to open up a music club, but I can't find anywhere. And Ham Sandwich is like, well, I guess I'll have to think about it. And it's like, okay, I know this is a movie, but you could just move this conversation in the movie 20 minutes later, and then I wouldn't have to sit here and pretend to not be mad that you don't just say, I was just in this amazing theater.
I was just in an abandoned auditorium.
Right. However, this is the equivalent of us booking Madison Square Garden to do a podcast in. Like, utterly insane on every single conceivable level. The size of this building and the scope of the building for what he wants to do in it is inconceivably incorrect.
But he has money and he has clout, I'm sure, from being, a gold record person.
It's not even that. It's the idea of like, there's no way there is weekly demand. Like when they show the inside of the building, it's a normal size club, but like, when it's all fixed up and is Xanadu, but when they do the like walkthrough with Gene Kelly, Olivia Newton-John, and the Ham Sandwich, that building is a full-on auditorium. Like Gene Kelly's like, they used to have wrestling here. It's like a 15,000 seat arena.
It is.
It's preposterously large for a dance club. Like you've been to a Flyers game.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if that building was gutted of all the seats and someone was like, I'm going to put a music club in here?
I don't think it's that big.
It's okay. You're right. It's more like the Spectrum, which was a smaller building, but it's a huge building. So the Flyers Arena holds 20,000, give or take. This is probably 10. So half that size, but that's still huge.
Yeah. After this scene is also just only exists to be one of the many throwbacks to Gene Kelly being, a musical theater legend.
I actually really love this sequence a lot. Like,
I like parts of it. So first of all, Olivia Newton-John does not have a 1940s voice. Like she didn't even try to sound 1940s, which is a very specific sound, and it's not that difficult to do. But like, so he's sitting facing the camera in his house, and she's like a ghost. The band is ghostly, she's ghostly, and him in his younger days is ghostly next to her over his shoulder. And he's kind of like wistfully looking up into the direction that they are, and then all of his furniture disappears, and she ghostly steps off the stage, and he steps up to her also ghostly, like he is old man ghostly, and all of a sudden they like embrace and turn solid and dance, and I was like, I don't know what we're like. I feel like there's too many layers and like metaphors here.
So to me, I thought it was like a really beautiful reminiscing turned into daydream sequence. Like to me, I thought this was kind of a cool representation of exactly the things you're describing. At first it's him thinking about the old days, and then it's like him picturing that memory and then him living the memory.
You know what? Oh, I just thought of it. I just fixed this scene for me. It would have been really cool if what they had done was, so the furniture disappears, Olivia Newton-John and actual footage of young Gene Kelly are ghostly behind him. And then they shoot it or cut it or whatever in a way where it's an actual footage of a young Gene Kelly doing a dance duet with a woman, and they replace the woman with Olivia Newton-John. So that way it's actually young Gene Kelly, and then he could like step up into it halfway through, and it's actually him, old man, dancing with Olivia Newton-John.
To do that back then, I think would have looked really wonky, but I agree with you. Like now we could do that and it would look really rad.
Yeah. Which I realize is a specific request of this movie, but I think what weirded me out was that like he was a human person, and then when he stood up to go approach her, he turned ghostly. And like that just threw me off. I think if he had stayed solid the whole time and then he's bringing her, like I think then it would have read better.
Yeah, like I said, I really like this sequence, so I don't agree with you, but I don't think your criticisms are crazy. I thought this sequence was really, really kind of beautiful, actually. And it ends with their tap dancing, and then it kind of like transitions to him looking sort of wistfully off into the distance. And I just thought it was really nice. I like it. It really worked for me. And also, he's 68 here and really moving like you'd never know.
Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins, where he's just like,
well,
no, I'm
Dick Van Dyke is even more impressive.
Yeah, he's like 100.
90? Yeah, it's like Dick Van Dyke is extremely old
and still funny. Like apparently, what was it? She said, like he was on the red carpet with Emily Blunt for Mary Poppins Returns, and she was like, "Oh, they're so excited to see you as Bert again." He's like, "No, they're all just surprised I'm not dead yet."
Yeah. I mean, he's not wrong.
No, he's not. Also, I don't know that this tapping was recorded live. Like, I think this was...
He's 94, by the way, Dick Van Dyke.
What I was expecting.
I don't think the tap is live either. I think it's all full.
Because I was like staring at their shoes to see every time they did a flap and like lift it up to be like, I don't see taps.
I think it's because she is not as good at it as him, and it would have been obvious.
Very true. We cut to the painting studio, and Ham Sandwich is working on a thing, and Olivia Newton-John magically appears behind him because she's a monster.
Yeah, it's really terrifying that she just like bloop into existence, and he still doesn't seem to get that she's magical. He's like, "Oh wow, how'd you get in here?" Like, bro, Ham,
he's way
come
too
on.
lackadaisical. Like I'm like all signs point to something weird.
Yeah,
and you're just like, oh wow.
At minimum, she broke in, and that's also creepy.
Mm-hmm. Because how does she know where you work, bro?
Right.
So they go. He's like, oh, let's go on a skate date, and he's like, oh, because so we called it an art studio, but it's like an art studio at a recording studio, like a conglomerate. Like if Paramount Records had an art department, that's where he works basically. And so like they skate their way into this sound stage essentially with a metal cage in the middle, and he's like, "Oh, this is the recording booth." And I was like, "No, it's not." And he goes, "Yeah, if you hit these buttons, they project images, and it's for inspiration, I guess." And I was like, "This like even in movie world, this is stupid."
Yes,
and
it's extremely dumb.
And she's like, "Well, you should turn it on." He's like, "I don't know how to work it." And she's like, "Just hit the buttons." And I was like, "Oh my!" As someone who works in theater, I'm like, the idea that someone's like, "I don't know how this works," beep boop boop, makes my heart hurt.
But it just the idea, like, I guess some of this would make sense for a theater production in some way, shape, or form. But it's bonkers that they would even imagine to set it up in this way, that like just one button brings down this roof
all
piece.
OSHA violations.
Yes, it seems extremely
like things float
dangerous.
down with no warning light, no nothing. It's just like you have to gangway.
I mean, to be fair, I don't think it was an OSHA violation in 1980. I think that we are viewing this movie from a 40 years later lens. But the part that I found just so wild about it is, imagine any rooftop scene in a movie that you've ever watched.
You can say Step in Time.
There's like three pretty typical.
You can just say Step in Time.
Well, it's not Step in Time. It's not Step in Time because it has three features that are like more modern. The one is the alcove where the door comes out, and it's like clearly like the terminal end of a staircase. The other is the silver round vent thing that spins. It looks like a chef's hat from a cartoon, but the top is moving. And then the third is your traditional block of chimneys that is more like Step in Time. So I like any movie or show you've ever seen set in New York City with a roof scene, like the roof scene in Weekend at Bernie's has all three of these things.
It does. The roof scenes in How I Met Your Mother.
Yes, exactly. So any pop culture New York-y thing, that's what you're picturing.
Did
but
Seinfeld
imagine
ever
all
go on the
those.
roof? I don't think
Kramer
so.
tans on the roof and turns into the turkey.
Oh,
and
you're right.
There is at least the door thing, if not also the metal chef's hat thing. But Seinfeld rarely went on the roof. But all of these things are attached to wires, and so when he hits a button, the floor, which is just a concrete floor, all of these things come floating down from the ceiling to make the set. And just the idea that they wouldn't just be in a closet and pulled out on roller, some sort of roller or any other thing, or picked up and carried and placed down is absolutely insane to me.
Well, also, so they then fly away with some random wire work because why not?
Yeah.
And then there's growing palm trees. They're like
Right.
deflated palm trees that turn on and like pop up.
Right. And also, I didn't mention it before, but Olivia Newton-John has knee-high skates on, which is something I've never seen before in my whole life.
I love it though. I love a skate that's not a normal skate.
The aesthetic of everything is great. I just thought I should point out that she's wearing like white cowboy boots, basically, but also skates.
I don't understand. Like, this would have made so much more sense if he was like, "Oh, this is where we film music videos."
Right.
Like, this should have just been, "This is the music video studio."
Right. That is the obvious answer to this.
So then we got a Singing in the Rain moment without Gene Kelly, which is like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. If you're going to do this, boy, oh boy, do you have the wrong two people in this scene. Like, I would be fine if you just wanted him to do that whole song and dance number again.
Yeah, the rain also is clearly not anywhere near. It's clearly just, they have a rain strip in front of the camera, and they're way, way back.
I thought this looked less good than the high school production of Singing in the Rain that I have seen.
Mine? You mean my high school production?
Yeah. Yes. Didn't you have like a gutter? Like, I remember you showing it to me. Like, there's like a...
We did the gutter. So there's two ways to do them that theaters do it. There's one that's called, like, it's like a caravan where they just wheel out a self-contained box that has rain, that rains in cycles. And then we did it where we had just a little platform with a gutter around it, and we rained it directly on there, which was not the way to go because we got mold on our stage.
Yeah,
my freshman year,
that might.
We did Little Shop of Horrors with a rotating flower shop, and half the wheels broke, so we just carved rings into our stage.
Whoa, no.
And then my sophomore year was Singing in the Rain, and we soaked it, so all these carvings got soaked. And then my junior year was Pajama Game, and we were like, we're just gonna do it. Like, we drilled into the stage we don't ever want, because by senior year it got replaced.
I looked this up while you were telling that story, not because I wasn't interested, but because I knew the punchline of that story, and I was like, I could take 30 seconds here to answer this question. It's the Pan Pacific Auditorium.
Pan Pacific
is the name of the building. Really beautiful building. It looks like the seating was about 6,000, but the auditorium itself was about 100,000 square feet, which is really enormous for that small amount of seating. Anyway,
a train shows up.
Yes, the train.
What is
train
happening?
Is how we get out of this. Yeah, it's like what a child would imagine a movie studio to be like.
No, you know what it is? It's Gem and the Holograms.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
Hey, we got to film our music videos, and then the Misfits are there, like, we're filming ours in the same day, and they're like on the same soundstage on the different sets.
Yeah, or like a Looney Tunes setup.
Yes. Their skates disappear.
Well, they the boss is like, is that ham sandwich? What are you doing here, ham sandwich? You're getting mayo all over the place. And he's like, no, I'm not ham sandwich, just kidding, bye.
And then Olivia Newton-John goes, it is him.
Yeah, it's just like, what are you doing? You're going to get him fired. So we cut to Gene Kelly goes to visit the theater, and that's when he's like, this used to host wrestling. And it's like, I just can't get over how wrong this is for this movie. But we cut away they break in and they start talking about their ideas for the club, and Gene Kelly is talking about like a big band thing with like, the very old school like Frank Sinatra's
He's
backing
looking
band in
to
Vegas.
the 40s and 50s.
Right. Yeah, like a tiered backing band with those little like podium things in front of them, and then Ham Sandwich is like, no, it'll be a young hip club, and then like one of their visions is to the left and one of their visions is to the right, and then they slowly kind of cross over with one another. It's should be amazing, but because they cheaped out on the filming, all this stuff, which is designed to be viewed in like a staggered tier of layers, instead is shot from like ground level. So imagine being at a general admission concert, or like imagine that you're standing at one end of a basketball court and there's no raised stage on the other end. So there's just a sea of people on the same level and you're like trying to look through it. It's so stupid. It's so hard to see.
It also, I think, took way, so the whole point is that Gene Kelly's like, oh, the 40s, and Ham Sandwich was like, oh, the 80s, and basically it's as if there was, remember those sketches on SNL that are like the Adam Sandler family reunion or the Christopher Walken family reunion? It's basically the Gene Kelly family reunion on the 40s side. It's like everyone's dressed in some version of a Gene Kelly costume or some number that Gene Kelly did with a lady on that side. And the other side's all like sexy 80s dancers, like half naked, like writhing around doing like 80s dancing.
Right.
And it just takes way too long for them, because the end is just they combine together and they're like, oh,
right.
Which doesn't actually happen in the movie. Like that's not
even
that is
close.
not what the club
not
ends up
even
looking like.
No,
but also like, if you're gonna do that, that's cool idea, because basically the rock band stage and the big band stage slide together like a zipper, like zipper teeth. And they fit and it works and it's cool and it sounds cool. And I was like, if that's what you were going for, we should have gotten here sooner, and it should have been a better blend of these two styles and like the dancers meshing.
Right. And also there's a lot of stuff in the 80s one that I'm just going like, we're doing what now? At one point, several men pick up women as if they're guitars, and they strum them as if they were guitars. Except the part that they were strumming is their hoo-ha. Like, why is this the way this is choreographed? It was absolutely their hoo-ha.
No, because their arms were on their hips, so it would have been like their chest sternum area. Because they're holding their legs.
They're holding the leg, and then they're strumming where their legs meet the body.
Oh, I thought they were strumming more like chest sternum.
No. Yeah, the chest sternum was how the women were propping themselves up on the thigh of the guy.
Mm. You also get the knockoff. Is it Anderson Sisters? Is that who does Bugle Boy?
I don't know Bugle Boy, but that sounds
Woogie Bugle
fine.
Boy of Company B.
No, I mean I know the song, but I don't know who sings it.
Are they Andrews Sisters?
I don't turn on the Bugle Boy.
You don't listen to Big Band Pandora?
Often. It's not often. Andrews Sisters is what the internet is telling me.
Second try.
I just feel this whole sequence, except for the excessive thrusting and the aforementioned playing women as guitars thing, has a real High School Musical energy to it. Like the type of choreo is like pretty simple. I'm not saying High School Musical, capital letters, the thing. I'm talking about like when you would be in a musical in high school and like the talent level is extremely varied. So you pick the best dancers and give them things to do on their own. And then when it's a big group, you bring it down so that like everybody can do it.
You got
and
the featured dancers.
Yeah. And then you have a thing that like anybody can learn with some practice, and it's like not excessively complicated. I'm not clowning on anyone.
That's what we call the movement. You have the movers and the dancers.
Yeah.
Your movement audition is how you like, we're going to walk in a circle and we're going to put our hands out.
Yeah, this is firmly where I would be in this world. I'm not clowning on anybody. It's fine. But like a lot of the choreo feels like that to me, which is bonkers because all of these people are being paid to be here.
Yes.
Gene then decides to bring the ham sandwich in on making this project, which is like just the pants on head craziest thing. The only way this makes sense is if Gene Kelly knows about the muse and he's going to try to like kidnap her. Like he's going to do a heel turn and it's like, JK, I needed you. And I've now done a binding ritual and you're stuck here. But like, why? This man has no discernible talent of any type for this type of project. He's not here to paint things. It's not like, oh, I want a huge mural and I think you'd do a great job.
Which would make sense.
I want you to be my business partner on making a club. Why does he know jack shit about this?
I also wrote Olivia Newton-John reveals herself to Gene Kelly and makes him think he's crazy. And I don't know why I wrote that.
Well, there's the sequence here where Gene Kelly's like, "What are we gonna call it?" And she just kind of
she pops
springs
out of
into the
nowhere.
room. Yeah, and she says,
She Dracula.
Xanadu.
She's Dracula. You know how?
Yeah, she is.
It just pops up behind people, like, and she's like, "Let me quote ancient poetry."
Xanadu.
Yeah. She quotes ancient poetry, and they're like, "Oh, Xanadu."
And he's like, "I know who you are." And she's like, "No, you don't." And he's like, "No, I knew you as Kira, but I believe you're like Terpsichore or something."
Terpsichore is the actual muse she probably would have been, because that was the muse of dance. But in the stage musical, they went with Cleo, the muse of history.
Well, she's Terpsichore explicitly in the Wikipedia article.
Yeah, because she says terp.
Yeah. Ham Sandwich. Oh, that's what happened. Ham Sandwich was like, "You got to see this place better in the light. Let me go get my flashlight." And he like goes to get the flashlight. Then Olivia Newton-John pops in, and that's when they do this whole tete-a-tete of like, "I know who you are." He comes back with this flashlight that is like a standard human normal flashlight, and when he turns it on, it's like they flicked all the lights on in the room. It's the light. It's very Looney Tunes energy of like, he has like a mag light, and he's like, "All right, now look over there."
He flicks a lighter. Or he's like, "Hey, open that fridge, Gene Kelly." And Gene Kelly opens the fridge, and he's like,
bathed in light. Yeah. Another shutter transition.
Yeah, shutter transition to the Ham Sandwich runs into his job, and he's like babbling like a lunatic.
Absolutely.
As far as we know, he hasn't told anyone about this new club idea that he has. So he's like, "Drinks are on me. Y'all quit your job and come work for me. Drinks are on me." And he like tells off his boss, kind of, but it sounds like the ramblings of a lunatic. And I was like,
yes.
This man, he leaves he like grabs his jacket and walks out. And I'm like, that man would leave and everyone would be like, "So do we call security? Or like, do we just lock the door? Do we change the locks? What do we do?"
Is there someone we can call to get him help? Can we get him non-voluntarily committed? Because he's not going to do it on his own. This also ends with like, he fires himself from the job. And then the boss is so perplexed, he puts his hand like right down in a big bucket of paint and like looks at his own palm being all red. And it's just like, I really like it. It's the kind of dumb little joke that it tickled me. But I was like, why is this in the movie? Why is this here? This is out of tone, out of context.
And then for truly no reason and without explanation, they're in the Hollywood Bowl?
Well, I think it's supposed to be this club, but they're absolutely shooting in the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah, I was like, that's I've seen performances there.
Yeah. I think that's supposed to be them renovating this club, and they just happened to shoot it at the Hollywood Bowl.
Well, the Hollywood Bowl's an outside amphitheater, isn't it?
I agree.
Okay,
yes.
So it's just very poor planning.
Yes. You might say that the people who were producing Xanadu didn't do the best job. No. Imagine that. So
this next moment, I want to give myself credit for, because they start singing and turn into cartoons, and I wrote all caps, "They're just a Don Bluth cartoon?" And then plot twist, it is actually a Don Bluth cartoon.
Yeah, it is a really great looking Don Bluth animation. But so part of the reason
Thumbelina.
we had
it's just his preview for if you look at this and you like side by side with Thumbelina, it's just that.
But so this is where I was telling you when we were texting and why we got to the confusion over this and Alligator. I was like, if you haven't watched it yet, don't read anything, because sometimes I'll skim the Wikipedia or look things up. And I didn't know there was an animated sequence. And so I literally went, what? Like, just suddenly they're cartoons, and I was just flabbergasted at it. And it's gore. I mean, Don Bluth animation I really like. It's awesome and hand drawn. It is real pothead shit for sure.
It's very Fantasia.
Yeah.
Also, if you don't know, Don Bluth is basically the guy behind every non-Disney movie that you like, that you bring up in conversation, that people bring up in conversation about Disney movies, and some a-hole goes, "That's not Disney."
He's also the guy who made the Dragon's Lair video game, which, did we ever? No, I guess we never put that up. We actually got to play when we were down in Halloween Horror Nights. They had a Stranger Things
I was
arcade.
pretty good at it.
Yeah, it's basically like any cutscene in a modern video game where it'll like randomly have buttons popping up on the screen that you have to QuickTime. Thank you. But yeah, it's a very interesting video game, and the animation back then, it's just mind blowing compared to what other games looked like.
Yeah. He also did work for Disney, but left, I believe.
Yes, I believe, was there for quite some time, actually. He had a lot he worked on several big...
I want to say he left pre-Renaissance or mid-Renaissance?
I thought he worked on several of the big. He worked on.
It's just weird that he would have been able to do this movie in 1980 or 79.
Yeah, he was in the years leading up to what later became the Disney Renaissance. But his stuff is The Secret of Nim, American Tail, Land Before Time, All Dogs Go to Heaven, and Anastasia.
Mm-hmm. Anastasia's the big one for him, and Thumbelina was another one that he did.
I mean, you're discounting Fievel and Land Before Time, you monster, by saying that she's the big one.
Anastasia
sure.
is the big one.
He worked on Sleeping Beauty, Sword in the Stone, the television series Fantastic Voyage, and then it looks like he left Disney around then.
Yeah, and did his own thing.
No, he worked on Disney's Robin Hood as well.
Oh,
Robin Hood, Escape to Witch Mountain, Winnie the Pooh, The Rescuers, Peach Dragon, and then Xanadu, and Fox and the Hound. So I guess he leaves right around now. He was probably a freelance guy. He probably was not an employee, which explains why he would have been working on this.
So
they turn into all sorts of creatures in this animation.
You know what it is? You know what it is? It's the Sword in the Stone.
Yeah, it does have real Sword in the Stone energy.
They keep turning in Sword in the Stone. He's like, oh, he's a fish. Now he's a squirrel. Now he's a germ.
Right. So that transitions out, and Gene Kelly is toasting the construction workers with a bottle of Dom Perignon, which I was like, that's what you get when you're Gene Kelly, and you're like, no, I'm not going to drink the
prop wine.
I'm not going to drink the Andre. I'll be having Dom Perignon, please and thank you.
Also, apparently he agreed to do this movie because it was close to his house.
Yeah, this is the last movie he worked on that he actually appeared in. He did some other like choreo behind the scenes things after this, but this is the last movie he appeared in, and he was working right up until his death in '96. He was like credited for doing choreo for an animated movie that came out like it might have even been 2 years after he died.
But it's
a bummer. Like he's still very charming in this, and he's like 68. Like maybe he just didn't feel like
it must have been a personal choice.
Yeah, I hope he just was like, I would like to retire and I'm going to pull back. But if not, that's a huge bummer because he's easily the best part of this movie.
Yeah, like it's just crazy because I feel like he and Angela Lansbury could have been buddies, like could have been doing stuff.
Yeah, sure. He should have been a bad guy on a Columbo.
Or Murder, She Wrote.
Well, he could do both of those things.
Yeah, but like if I'm talking, what's Murder, She Wrote? But they're like, hey, Gene Kelly, you need cooler clothes. And I was like, why? He dresses like an old man. Let him dress like an old man.
Yeah. And I immediately was like, oh, cool, we're doing a montage.
But not the montage I wanted.
Really?
Yeah, so
this is my favorite part of the movie, and it's like not even close.
It's amazing. Don't get me wrong. But the problem is, like, I was like, a lot of this movie feels like, hey, we have this song and let's make it work, as opposed to like trying, like doing it in a way where it moves the story. Like in Hairspray, there's a song called Welcome to the 60s, which is basically this song where it's Tracy and her mom, and she says, welcome to the 60s. And they're like trying on different 60s clothes because her mom dresses more like the 40s and the 50s. And then she dresses all like va va voom she. And she's like, oh, I'm confident now. And like, I guess, you know what it is? It's that this movie is weird in that, generally speaking, the songs aren't presented in traditional, I'm a person singing a song, doing a dance in this world. They are presented, we are people dancing to songs that are playing in the world we live in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get that.
So, like, because it's not Gene Kelly singing a song with Olivia Newton-John about, like, fashion, it feels weird, and so it doesn't become the, like, Gene Kelly keeps coming out in new clothes, and they keep cutting to, like, weird dancers.
Yeah, so because they, like, Olivia Newton-John's not singing this song, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. Nobody is. That's my problem.
Yeah.
Because nobody is singing, the song doesn't, like, belong to someone, so it's not like, hey, I'm going to keep trying on the clothes. It's like, look at all these weirdo dancers. Look at these weirdo visuals. Like, the emphasis seemed to be placed more on the visuals and the weirdness than actually being a shopping montage, which is easy. Shopping montages are easy.
Yeah, I totally disagree. This is like my favorite part of the whole movie. I think it's
I truly liked it.
I think Gene Kelly,
it wasn't exactly what I wanted.
It sounds like you don't like it because it's breaking musical rules, which I don't know any of, so that doesn't bother me.
I wouldn't necessarily say that it's breaking musical rules. It's just like, this is very clearly, I guess what I would have rather done would have been like all the clothes trying on in the front half of the song. He gets his new outfit and look, and then the second half of the song is like, let's dance around this quote unquote store. As opposed to what we got, which was like everything was very interspersed and it felt disjointed. Huh.
Yeah, no, I completely disagree with you. I think this is like exactly what I would expect out of a shopping montage in an 80s movie. It's a hoot to me, but that's fine. The part about the two things about it that I really like are, one, they do the bit where it's like these are mannequins and Terpsichore like brings them to life, but they basically got the 5 actors in the costumes and were like, all right, everybody hold your breath and hold still. And so it's like very clearly 5 humans who just start moving, as opposed to like, hey, folks, you're making a movie. So just put the mannequins in, shoot the mannequins, and then put people in and then cut it together. I could do this on iMovie. Certainly you could do this cut. Like, yes. This is stupid. That really was kind of bizarre to me. And then I also really like the beginning of the montage. Gene Kelly puts on a Hawaiian shirt and then he puts on a different Hawaiian shirt. And I was like, I think they had to talk Gene Kelly into putting some of these outfits on, maybe. Probably. Because the first 2 are just Hawaiian shirts. But they're doing like, he's got a zoot suit on and he looks like the Mask in one of the scenes, this big yellow ensemble.
He looks,
but I like it.
I was gonna say he looks like the Tex Avery wolf, but that's just the Mask. That's just the prototype.
Yeah, no, that's
Mask.
yes, exactly.
There's a dressing room where the door is a lady's legs that open up. They split.
Yes, yeah, that's a weird one. Yeah, and then he gets roller skates on, and then he starts doing pinball.
Nervous. I got very nervous for him playing roller skates, and I know that's ageist, and I'm sorry.
It wouldn't be in the movie if he fell down.
I know, but like it just seems like seems like a big risk for national treasure Gene Kelly.
I mean, he was an incredibly talented skater. There's an awesome, I don't know what movie it's in, sequence in a movie that's very famous that he tap dances in roller skates.
Yeah, I know that, but he wasn't 60, 70. He was like 20.
I know, but like, I feel like some of that stuff never goes away.
Maybe. I also wrote the note, spiderweb genderfuck leg tunnel, which I've never had to write in anything before. So thank you, Xanadu.
Yeah, no, that's a very accurate description of one particular sequence of this montage.
It's great. Like, don't get me wrong, I do like this montage a lot. Like, I would want to go shopping in the store with these people. It's just not structured in the way I would have liked.
It reminded me kind of that. I remember it was one year we were up in New York and on like a weekend trip, and Lady Gaga had a special.
Yep, it was the Lady
Florida
Gaga
store.
It was Lady Gaga with, was it Macy's or Nordstrom's? It was like some
one of those.
It was a higher end probably, so I don't think it was Macy's. Department store in New York was outfitted with like Gaga's workshop for Christmas.
Yeah.
So we went after, like, between Christmas and New Year's. I still have the bag from there, actually, because it was cool.
Right, but a lot of the clothes and the mannequin dress, the clothing
that's a really good, that's a deep cut, but I like it.
Yeah, well, it's only for you, obviously, but like it is, all of the outfits in the sequence I could see being part of a Lady Gaga concert or performance in general. Like, they're very crazy fashion things. The pinball sequence I really like. Once he's on the roller skates, he's like bouncing on stuff.
Yeah, the giant pinball set.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. It's crazy what they chose to spend money on in this movie.
It's not like there's a pinball machine anywhere in the movie. Like, if they had walked into the store and there was a pinball machine in there, I just like, why did we decide what happened?
Right. It makes absolutely no sense. So the club's about to open, and Ham Sandwich then tells Olivia Newton-John that he loves her. But she explains, no, I'm a muse. My name is Terpsichore.
She has to explain to him. She basically goes, oh, I have limitless magical powers, turns out. Watch this. Zip, zap, zop. And like tries to prove that she's a muse.
The part where they have the TV start talking to him, I really like. He's watching this like 40s gangster movie, and the two guys like turn to him and are like, hey, Ham Sandwich, she's a muse. Promise. Look, we're talking to you on the TV.
And then she stands up in the movie.
Yeah.
So this is what I mentioned earlier when I said the movie could be a horror movie or something else. I think this dynamic and relationship would be so fascinating as a drama in much more competent hands that, like, her role in the universe is to inspire someone, make them fall in love, and then break their heart so they create something and then leave. And she knows that this is how it has to go every time, but the men or the people don't. And I think that would be such a fascinating movie and like character dissection.
Yeah, I think that would be really fascinating. And I think there is some truth to that in like people who are comfortable don't tend to make great art. Like, you know, when your favorite artist gets old and rich, they stop making interesting songs, usually, not always, but usually, because it's like they're not struggling anymore and struggle create. Yeah, exactly. Or, you know, Spielberg is a couple of things. I think age is a big factor there too.
But yeah, I kept, the more they dove into this relationship, I was like, God, I want this to be a movie about like not this movie, but I want a movie now about the relationship of like a muse who knows her role and like the different people that she would, you know, inspire.
I think that ties into my idea that I talked about earlier of like Gene Kelly getting one more crack at it, of like her feeling really guilty about her influence really messing somebody up and like wanting to correct that. I think could be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So Ham Sandwich is on the beach in a shirt that looks almost like it was drawn by Don Bluth. Like it looks very similar to the Don Bluth fishes. I don't know if you caught that. And then he's skating to Olivia Newton-John's mural. And
he's in my summer aesthetic.
God.
He's in roller skates, tiny red shorts, and a half-open button-down. The only thing he's missing is socks.
He gets up to the mural and he like puts a hand on it, and then he goes back and he starts skating toward it. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. He's going to skate into the mural. But I want to point out here that Ham Sandwich on roller skates looks like an octopus on roller skates. It's really awkward and flaily. He is not a good skater.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was doing this until he was doing it. And I was like, whoa, he took a lot on faith.
Yeah, he skates straight into a world of Technicolor neon nonsense, and it is delightfully insane. Yeah, he really is in a Snapchat filter.
And so they clearly were like, we're just going to pile on the VFX. Every VFX we have, we're just going to do in this scene.
It's the equivalent of what he was doing back in that room where he was like, I don't know how this works. I'm just going to push all the buttons.
Yes, very that.
Like plonk, plonk, plonk. Except instead of a piano, it's every visual filter simultaneously. Olivia Newton-John is like, you have to flee. And then she starts talking to her muse parents, and she admits that she's in love with him.
It's Zeus for one. I don't know who the woman is, because whoever knows who was the mother of any of Zeus's children.
Hera?
I don't think it was. The Wikipedia said someone, but it didn't say Hera.
Okay.
It would be rare if Hera actually wifed or mothered any of Zeus's children.
Yeah, you're right about that.
He got around.
But Zeus was siring children with basically anything he felt
anything
like.
Anything that moved, he'd be like, yo, baby.
Some things that didn't. It would be like a boulder, and he's like, this is my kid, Boulder Dash.
He'd be like, oh, look at that dead horse skull. Boom, there's a baby coming out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't particularly care about their relationship. Like the Ham Sandwich and Olivia Newton-John. Like I kind of want them to be apart by the end of the movie, or like some struggle that they have to come across. Because she's a muse.
Right.
She has a job to do. Even Zeus says, he's like, other people have dreams. Like she's a dream maker. Right.
Yeah, I don't like that she falls for him, and I also specifically don't like that she falls for him because there is literally nothing about she pointedly at several different times won't answer any questions about herself. It's like, you don't know this woman, you're in love with your idea of her, this is stupid.
You're in love with a manic pixie dream girl.
Right. She is the most manic pixie dream girl perhaps ever.
I agree. Zeus kind of sounds like Alfred.
Yeah, he does sound a little like Alfred.
The first four Alfred, not Michael Caine, obviously. And then we get a very boring I Want song that is shot in the most boring way ever.
It's just like a chest up close up of Olivia Newton-John for 3 minutes. It
keeps like
really
pushing
boring.
in from this angle and then cuts to a new angle wide and pushes in. I'm like, what are we doing?
Nemesine is the mother of Terpsichore, according to the internet, by the way.
Oh, thank you, internet.
But yeah, it's dreadful. This
they couldn't even give us a relationship montage.
I called this the glowing Olivia Newton-John ballad.
Yes, it is. But like every other movie that does this, this is over a montage of the relationship, or like clips of him being sad without her.
Right. Anything would be better than just this close-up of Olivia Newton-John singing a song slowly. This felt like contractual obligation, the song.
So apparently this song was originally supposed to be sung in the roller rink. It was like there last night.
Oh, that would make sense.
It was the night before opening, and she was like, I wish I could stay here suspended in time with you. And like,
oh, yeah, that would make a lot more sense.
Right? Like, what are we doing?
Right.
And apparently, speaking of, the animated sequence was that they had a song written and they were like, well, we don't want to shoot anything, so let's just have someone animate this song.
By the way, the voice of Zeus is the guy who played Colonel Pickering in My Fair Lady, so you can put the tweets down.
Oh. Also by Gene Kelly. This club looks like an insurance nightmare.
Yes. We get this club, like we get the club opening bit, and it's just like Gene Kelly roller skating all over the place, which is a delight. I mean, I love it. This is great. The last 20 minutes of this movie is one sentence of plot description.
This movie did so... I'm like, what... You can't spend the whole movie talking about this roller disco and then hand wave everything about the roller disco for 5 minutes.
Right. It's bonkers that like you could sum up everything that happens in the last 20. Maybe it's 2 sentences. I said one before, but it's like the club opens, it's a great success, and everybody goes home happy is what happens. But it is 20 minutes of movie of like Gene Kelly's roller skating, and like Gene Kelly roller skating is great. I like it. It's fine that it's in the movie, but like he does a whole number, and then Ham Sandwich shows up after all, and then they have like a little moment.
Because what happened, what we saw when we last left our heroes, they were like, Ham Sandwich won't come to the opening because Olivia Newton-John isn't there, and Olivia Newton-John is trapped in the mural, and then all of a sudden she shows up at the club, and there's not a big deal. It's not like, oh, she's here, and there's no like, Ham Sandwich, you showed up. I'm so glad you decided to be like, there's none of that. It's just everyone happens to be here.
And also, this song is supposed to be like your big showstopper. It's the song Xanadu.
This should have been the finale song.
It feels like the thing you hastily scribble down on the paper because the teacher has started collecting the homework, and you're like, I forgot to do it, but it's math homework, so I'll just put some numbers down and maybe some of them will be right, and it's better than 0. It starts with people going, Xanadu, 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 for
it's
like
creepy and weird.
3 whole minutes of chanting Xanadu. Like, fast forward, good Lord.
Also, just think about this. Can you imagine how mad you would be if you renovated and opened a roller disco in 1980? Like you have maybe a year left of that. You don't like, that's gone. That's dead.
Yeah, you've missed the boat. But this whole sequence, it's like they forgot that they had to end the movie, and so they were just like frantically trying to figure out what to do. Like this dance number, now it's cowboys suddenly we're doing a dance number with.
Yeah, so it's like, first of all, there's an amazing light up starburst on the floor, and I want it in my house.
It is cool.
She sings...
It's like a glow riser, basically.
Yes. So she's singing Xanadu and zipping around the stage, and I was like, oh, is this the finale? No, because she sings Xanadu, they have everyone do whatever stunt special skill they have on their resume, and then they decide to have her sing a song with apparently all the other muses. That is completely unclear.
Right.
Where she's like...
Yeah, I did not know that until you just said it.
Yeah. They were like, her 8 sisters, and I was like, why didn't we get like we needed a Little Mermaid moment where they're like, Calliope, Cleo, and whatever the hell.
Sure.
And... it's like, she's just singing a song, occasionally changing like styles, and then changing costumes. But it's boring because it's not like the costumes are glamorous each time, or like she tears away and there's a costume underneath. It's just like, all right, this is again going back to a High School Musical where it's like these are the featured dancers and they're all dressed in the tap dancer costumes, and this is the hoedown costumes.
Right. Honestly, it should be like the club is a huge success. Everyone's very happy. Ham Sandwich does show up, but he's a little dejected. Gene Kelly kind of pats him on the shoulder. He goes out to dance. She cuts in on who he's dancing with and asks to dance with him. She dances a little bit with Gene Kelly, who like they kind of resolve their little thing. And he's like, I think I'm not the person. I'm not the person you're supposed to be dancing with here. She goes over to Ham Sandwich and they dance, and that's the end of the movie. Like it's very easy to wrap this up and get the hell out of here instead of this like long thing with the costume changes and the glow riser. And then at one point she teleports everybody out of the club, and it's just her and Ham Sandwich. And I'm like,
So
where did
weird.
those people go? Like, did you kill them all?
She also, I didn't like the costume she wore for the song Xanadu.
No, I didn't like the costumes in that section either.
Oh, not all of them, but hers specifically. It's this weird, like, jumpsuity thing. When I wanted something flowy and long and ethereal, like, she's a muse. She should be, like, her train should be so long that by the time she circles the room, she should be able to grab the end of the train. Like, that's how long it should be. Yeah, no, I'm with you. She should at least have something on that reads extremely Greek goddess, and this doesn't. Yeah. But I wrote, like, the song where she keeps changing costumes, it feels like the payoff to something that never happened. Right. Like, there was no Zeus saying, like, you can't dance or whatever. Right. It's not the Footloose issue. It's just like, she shows up and she's like, look, everybody, I can do it. And I'm like, but do what? Yeah, we never thought you couldn't. You're, like, very pretty, and also you're a good dancer, and we've seen that before. I don't know what you're showing us right now. It's so bizarre. And then it just kind of ends. It's just like, that's the end of the movie. It's over. They basically do like a Looney Tunes circle close. Yeah. And then, so it ends with she disappears. She makes everyone disappear from the club, and then she disappears. Right. And then the people saunter back in like you're in a High School Musical, and they're like, hey, the romantic lead duet is done. Everybody sync back on stage. Yeah, so everyone can clap. Yeah, so they all like sidle on, and Gene Kelly's like, hey, waitress, get my friend here a drink. And it's Olivia Newton-John, but is it supposed to be Kira again? I couldn't tell. I thought it was kind of like that, but maybe not. It's not clear, because he's like, hey, wait. And she's like, what? And he's like, I just want to talk to you. And then close credits. Yeah. Final thoughts? I love it. It's 90 minutes. It's the songs are so good. It's a real like a Footloose or a what's the other big one? Flashdance. Like I frankly think that if ELO had just created an album with Olivia Newton-John and released it as sort of a Bat Out of Hell situation or something geared for a laser light show. Sure. I think this would have then, as an album, been more successful than it was. Yeah, I'm with you on that. There's a lot to like here. If you've never seen it, I really truly think this is worth your time to look at, just from very like the insanity. It's insane that this exists, frankly. It's a really wild type of movie that's out of its time in every conceivable way. So I did enjoy a lot of it. I don't think it's good. I think it's missing a lot of key features, like, you know, a Steve Guttenberg, as we've went on at length about, but super fun. There's a lot to like here, surprisingly, for a movie that is like universally, this and I think Ishtar are basically the two back pocket bad movies everyone has from a certain generation before us. And this one I don't think is nearly as bad as its reputation. I don't know about Ishtar. I agree. Probably another future episode, maybe. But yeah, this is a fun way to close season 6. We're going to do the Hall of Fame stuff on our next episode. Or did we retire that bit? I can't remember if we retired that bit. We might have retired that bit. I don't know. Anyway, if we're going to do it, we'll do it on our next episode. I'll check and see if I should delete that part. Thank you so much for listening to the show. It's really wild that we're still doing this 6 years later. I would not have guessed that when we started this. Right? I'm really excited to move into the 7th season. In our, as we start our next episode in September. If you haven't had a chance yet, check us out over on patreon.com/dissectingthe80s. We have an episode coming out sometime early in September that will be Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure to celebrate the release of that new one. Excited to jump into that. I just pulled the DVD off the shelf today to get ready to watch it. So excited to check that out. It's been a while for me since I've hung out with Bill and Ted. But there's lots of great episodes there. Patreon.com/dissectingthe80s. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the show. If you like the show, do the easiest thing in the world and tell 2 friends about it. That's the best way to learn about new podcasts I've found. So if you like us,
and you haven't yet, tell 2 friends, tell 2 people that you like the show, and help us grow a little bit more. We're doing a movie in the beginning of September. Be on this main feed here. It'll be September 7th. One I'm excited. I haven't watched in a long time, but 80s classic, Weird Science.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so I'm excited to jump into that. That'll be September 7th. Thanks once again for listening to the show. Check us out on Facebook and at Dissect the 80s on Twitter, and dissectingthe80s.com for anything else you'd want to know about us. I have been Tripp Lano.
I will always be Andrew Lano.
Until next time.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production.